Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Abelia. I'm starting a timer in front of myself, so I keep myself to time. My name is Gemma Baxter, and I have the great pleasure of working at the City of Melbourne as a Smart City Pilot and Trial Specialist, but we're inside a Smart City Incubator. So lots of councils have Smart Cities functions or teams. We're very privileged to have built up a Smart Cities practice inside the City of Melbourne, and now that has a group of multidisciplinary people working on Smart City projects. In this context, I think it's interesting to think about what's the relationship between smart cities and placemaking. And this in front of you is a green chair that we had the great pleasure of working with Abelia, Inhabit Place, and some other partners on this. And you might like to think of technology as like this often invisible kind of capability and knowledge layer in our city that can really catalyze really good stuff for community if done well, and if community have a level of safety and understanding around it. And so I guess I get to work on really cool pilots like this. And I'm going to take you through a couple of those pilots and demonstrate the work that we do. And I've got QR codes so that you can scan them and learn more. Reach out to me if you want anything, but I'm going to keep it pretty high level. Just a quick, before I move on, this Smart City Incubator, our vision is a thriving, resilient and evolving city. And I think it's important that that doesn't include the word technology or data in the statement, that we see technology, data and digital as kind of these capabilities, but they underpin everything, whether it's health or safety in the streets for vulnerable people, whether it's understanding transport modes and how they interact. I think that technology is kind of this capability. And at City of Melbourne, we really pride ourselves on being MVPers. So we're that like nimble team that is really brave and throws spaghetti at the wall when we can, because we want to test and trial with as smallest resources and a small amount of time as we can, because we serve the community and we're really conscientious when it comes to using resources to learn if it's no go or go, I guess, for new technologies. We're really transparent. If you go on our website, you'll be able to see all of the tech we use. You'll be able to link to the product data sheets. You'll be able to see the data itself. We have an open data policy, and we want to see more of that in council. So please, reach out to our teams if you want to hear more about that. And the other thing is we're storytellers, and we really pride ourselves on this. We often tell stories through the lens of community voice, or we actually get community to help us tell those stories. And we think that's really important to build trust with our community. And we know that we're at a time where increasingly communities aren't feeling connected into council, that they're feeling a little bit stressed and lacking that connection into to trust the council represent them. So that's really important for us. A quick kind of, what's the role of pilots? We really see pilots as a way to enable systems change in the City of Melbourne. Often we stand something up, we trial it, we go, yep, it didn't work, we're not going to scale it. It's not going to be a product we use or an approach we use, but we're going to scale the learning. So there's often different outcomes. This image in front of you is from a pilot we did with a Melbourne startup called ClimateSense, which is a climate tech product, or climate tech data system. It's an incredible tool, and City of Melbourne used it last summer. We got 21 champions, HeatSense champions across the organisation to use a new data tool, and through having our library officers, our rec centre officers, our emergency management teams, our people coordinating homelessness support, access to the data, prioritisation of different kilometre areas in the neighbourhood that were more at risk on a hot day, we were able to test and trial a data product for community wellbeing. And we're scaling those learnings for how we might design digital data products for maybe your lower maturity data people who aren't used to using data in their work. So just one little snippet. Now I'm going to focus on two things. One of them is a piece of furniture, which is actually an approach to design, and the second one is an exhibition. I think these are both really exciting projects to share with you, and I hope you get something out of them. The first one, it looks like an exciting green wavy chair, but the project itself was really about trialing a new data-led approach to urban design and placemaking, if you will, because data is not new. The way using data is not new, but often practices have existed for a long time, and embedding data in those practices, it's a question of where, when, who. Often it's these kind of co-design or data processes are seen as extra or onerous or an added layer of something to do. But in fact, we believe that if you're equipped with data, the outcome is always going to be better. So our question was, how can we embed data types in these design processes? And we actually didn't pitch this as a process. Abelia and Don and the team at Spark actually pitched an idea to use data in furniture design through an innovation challenge. And you can see down the bottom there a little GIF of activity via mobile phone data, which identified a location for trialing this approach. Now, it was a really comprehensive process, so I won't go into all of the steps, But what you see in front of you is, a very thoughtful and data-driven approach to designing a piece of furniture in the public realm that was very green and very interesting and new for our community. So we took them along on the journey. So this included mobile phone data, big data, movement data in our cities, how it changed post-pandemic, how people were gathering in spaces like median strips in a different way. We had place audits, so we had Abelia and the team out on the ground observing behaviours, having conversations. What do you want to see out of this neighbourhood area? We had design sprints with our internal sort of infrastructure design teams, with Spark design teams. We tested some concepts, we put it in the ground, and then we used more place audits, more mobile phone data in the measurement. So we really did propose a new radical data-driven approach to design. Now, we have this chair in front of you in the public realm, but it's important to note that this design could have looked a multitude of ways. What we were really testing is using data to inform the design itself, and then using data to reflect and measure and understand the impact of the design. And unfortunately, what we see in design in the city is often a focus on getting it built and getting it implemented, but less of a focus on measuring, evolving, iterating, reflecting how we change our processes, how we might update furniture, because we have to implement and design. You can see there are lots of little takeouts. There's a leaning bench, people were having coffees, but there wasn't a type of infrastructure to lean on. There's a stage that indicated fun. There was a curviness. There was lots of transport modes happening, and that curviness was the idea that you could be open, and there was different directions people were moving from. All of these different data points went into the design of the chair, and then we measured what the impacts were. So before I show you the data dashboard, this is just a quick slide on the ways we told community about it. Often it's scary for council to reveal processes or to be really open about what happened. So we went to Carlton Harmony Day. We had a picnic at the chair. We said, come and ask us questions. Abelia was in the news. We wanted everyone to know about the data process. We had a sign on site. We had a website. We had a customer contact center briefing so that anyone who called to say, what's this ugly green thing, which was sometimes the opinion, we could say, hey, we actually use data. And we heard from you, and we know that you want more safe spaces to connect. We know that you're still uncomfortable sitting close to people, but you want to be around other people. So we had information to share with people. And the outcome, so measuring after the fact, what we found, and we collected data in a number of ways. We used sensors on the chair. If people sat down, that created a vibration. We used accelerometers to measure that. We compared this new green furniture with a metal bench just down the strip. And so we knew that in comparison of the two chairs, this one chair had, I think it was upwards of 4 times the amount of activity on this chair than the metal bench down the street. It had more places to sit, sure. So there was more bums able to be accommodated on the chair, but it demonstrated that it was a social space. It enabled, to your point, you're talking about social connectedness, Chris, that well-being aspect. What are the benefits of people spending more time around each other, lingering in place, having longer dwell times? We used this new video analytics sensor to measure how long people were staying on site. And we know that across our municipality, chairs are used in different ways, but what if people dwell and spend time with each other? It was observed through the place audits that Abelia's team did, that people were having more interactions with strangers or people they didn't know. So this was a dashboard we put up on the public website. We did surveys, we did picnics. And I guess the takeaway was that, we can actually redesign or have value in using data, and the outcomes are more social spaces. So a highly useful infrastructure, having multiple different data points, had a really great outcome. You can see as well that we needed longer than 6 months to test it. We had Sally Cat sort of walk past it and go, I just thought that was another seat. I didn't quite understand it. And then over time, she even observed people kind of meeting there and lingering there and having yogurt there. We actually had to implement a bin because people used it so much that there was so much food and trash around it, but we didn't anticipate it being so popular. And now we've implemented a shade sail there. And we know that on really hot days, people don't have the coverage of this chair to linger and dwell. So we said to community, we heard that you needed more amenity. We implemented that. Now we're going to continue to collect data from that video analytics sensor. Now I'm going to speed through the second one a little bit faster. I want to make sure Adishri has lots of time to talk, but this one is really about embedding community voices in the stories that we tell. We decided to come up with an exhibition, and this was really to answer that question of how can we work with community to develop their understanding of the why of the sensing in the public realm, so that they don't just see it as a tech for tech's sake, so that we can actually build trust as we scale this up. So it is inevitable that, technology is a tool to support us as we need to be really mindful of how we run complex cities with complex transport infrastructure and complex needs. Tech and data can really help us support our communities, but we need to build trust. You can't scale up and then retrospectively explain the why. And we know that, especially in different communities with lots of different languages at play, lots of different cultural backgrounds, lots of different experiences of government, that there is a risk of leaving people behind on this journey of why and not developing trust. So we wanted to also think about language and barriers. So our response was to engage artists and engage community to tell stories that worked with them. We had 7 artists of different backgrounds, 7 different multimedia outputs from TikTok videos that were translated into Vietnamese, Chinese, Arabic, and English, and had the capability to be translated beyond that. We had installations, but the brief was to get these artists to help us tell stories of the human experience of cities to demonstrate the why of sensing, which is a pretty big task. It's no mean feat. So what we did was we went out to communities and we just had conversations about, like, what's your experience of the city? What's the most positive? What's the most negative? Some people said standing on litter or standing on dog poo. Some people said being lost in the city or feeling unsafe. So we wanted human experiences to inform this exhibition. We really included the community. We co-designed, and I'm looking at the time, so I will flick through, but we had this incredible exhibition where community could come along, they could draw, they could interact, they could learn about how we use sensors in parks to understand wind or soil moisture. And we had a really beautiful storytelling exhibition. And I guess the success factors of this were just, really about thinking about our communities rather than kind of just rolling out a project in a linear way. Lots of approaches, understanding why people are being left out, handing over the mic to community, stopping talking from government speaking in their languages. And what we did was we scaled the learnings. We didn't scale this exhibition. It's still on live. Feel free to scan that QR code and have an explore. But these learnings directly impact the way that we communicate with our community on complex topics like heat wave preparedness. And this is my last slide. I just think that, like, when you consider the work we do in smart cities, a lot of the ways we work aren't tech and data driven learnings. They're really about people and community learnings and collaborative learnings. More co-design, don't see it as a nice to have. You're able to build products that are fit for purpose and more sustainable for community if you embed them. And that's a money thing. That comes down to economic health. Expect to iterate, build in systems to constantly reflect and be like, is it working? I think we often deploy without that, like even a metal bench or even a new public design. There should be a period that's really transparent with community where we say, we're going to measure and see if we did it right and we got it right. See if your needs are still the same. It often takes years to deploy city designs. How out of touch are we with the sentiment and the needs of the people, or how can your designs iterate or build or be updated? Get lots of data, work with Abelia and the team, work with your big data, work with your sensors. One data type isn't enough. Do surveys, know who fills in your surveys and know who's left out, and get better at telling stories, because that's everything, really. And I'm going to stop talking there because it's 12:43.
I love it. I really love getting multiple types of data. And we talked about that last session as well, is this sort of idea that different types of data will tell you different things and you need to use multiple methods. There's a question from Nagar here. Nagar, do you want to jump off mute and ask your question?
Yeah. Hey, hello, Gemma. Thank you so much for your presentation. That was amazing. Just wanted to know, did you involve kids or youth in the community engagement process? I want to know how inclusive was it?
Yeah, this is a really good point. So we have neighbourhood partners for all of our neighbourhoods in the city. We're very privileged to have an awesome neighbourhoods model, and our neighbourhood partners would help us say, in my neighbourhood, we don't really hear from the people between 20 and 35, or in my neighbourhood, there's a lot of international students, but they're not really engaged in our engagement processes. I want you to target them. So when we did these projects, we would often say, who are the people we don't hear from? Youth, like below the ages of 18, are a little bit harder to engage because we like to do our team in Smart Cities, we like to have engagements where we pay people for their time and we sit and have conversations and we remunerate them. There was an example where we went to a school recently for a neighbourhood consultation, and the parents were in a rush and we were trying to kind of talk to kids and be like, what do you want to see in your neighbourhood? But it was kind of a challenge to engage those young people. But I definitely think that that's really critical. I think it's one of those signals for change. We need to be engaging our young people more. So potentially working more with like YMCAs and but I would humbly say that's an area we need to work a little bit more on. We're mostly targeting in our engagements people over the ages of 18 who have a voice in our voting. And
that is a beautiful segue to Adhistri's presentation, I think, which is all about how like a whole program that's put around engaging youth